What's happening, everybody? I appreciate you checking in. All right, obviously the news has dropped that Johnspytek, Petecarroll have decided to move on from Jacorian Bennett and bring in some more interior defensive line help. And I kind of want to break that down, kind of give you my take on really how I feel about moving on from Jacorian Bennett and the role that he could have played on this team, but also what does the new interior defensive tackle Thomas Booker do for this defense and this defensive line room, and what role will he play in the 2025 season? That's kind of what I want to break down, but I definitely appreciate you checking in with me. If you can, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on those notifications. My next giveaway is at 5,500 subscribers. It'll be my 11th giveaway since starting this channel a couple years ago, so I definitely appreciate you all that have rocked with me. So hit that sub button if you want to be included. Also, shortly after I drop this video, I will be going live. Again, I go live a couple times a week with my guys in the Raider War Room, just a way to be able to kind of chop it up with the chat, elaborate a little bit more on some of my takes, but I definitely like to respond and hear what your feedback is as well. So definitely hit that notification so you do know when I go live. Again, I'm going to be going live very shortly after I drop this video. So make sure you hit me up in that live as well. All right, let's talk about Thomas Booker first and the role that I think he might play on this team in the 2025 season. He was a 5th-round draft pick by the Houston Texans in the 2022 season, and then ultimately he did end up on the Eagles practice squad. He was able to fight his way to the 53-man roster, and last season he played just over 180 snaps for the Philadelphia Eagles, was able to pile up 18 tackles and 1 sack. And when you kind of take a look at the guy's film, I haven't watched a lot of it, but when you look at him, look, at the end of the day, I think he's a project, right? He's going to be a depth piece. He's going to be a guy that's going to come in. He's going to battle for a potential rotational piece next to Adam Butler. Now, some reports have come out this morning that LEKI FOTU was found walking around in a walking boot. That might be one of the reasons why we went out and did acquire somebody like Thomas Booker. Also, one thing to keep in mind that in this offseason, we did bring 2 individuals that were formerly with the Eagles organization within that front office that were responsible for scouting players. And so they may have been able to provide just a little bit more insight as to who Thomas Booker is, the type of player that he is, and maybe because of the loss of Christian Wilkins, LEKI FOTU obviously walking around in a walking boot just this morning, maybe they needed more help on this interior defensive line than was previously expected. Now, one thing you have to ask yourself is, does this mean the progression of our 4th and 6th round draft picks, Tonka Hemingway and JJ Pegues, are they just not developing or progressing as well as Johnspytek thought they may have in this offseason? Because look, with a 4th rounder as well as a 6th rounder, you don't expect a whole lot. But one thing that you do expect is that they may be able to produce enough to get some playing time, really fight for a rotational piece within this interior defensive line. Now, I know that reports have just came out that Tonka Hemingway might be getting more reps as an edge rusher as opposed to interior defensive line, but at the same time, that's 2 draft picks that you want to see progress and slowly improve. And one of the best ways, in my opinion, that you can help some of these young rookies with the progression and their growth in their early years is giving them some of that playing experience, really giving them a lot of rotations in practice. And by adding another player into this interior defensive line, that's going to limit the amount of reps they potentially can get, especially when you swap a player like Jacorian Bennett. And I'm going to get into Jacorian Bennett in just a second and my feelings of us moving on from him. But in my opinion, the acquisition of Thomas Booker just makes me think, is JJ Pegues, potentially Tonka Hemingway, depending on what position he does ultimately play, are they just not progressing as well as Johnspytek, maybe even Petecarroll, thought they potentially would have? It just makes you think a little bit now that you're continuously bringing help, because that's the 2nd interior defensive lineman that we have acquired over just the last couple of weeks. And I'm a firm believer that you build through the draft and you coach up your players, and that's the only way that you're going to be able to find success consistently within a franchise and over the years. And so I want to see our draft picks continue to get better and give them every chance to get better and improve through the early stages of their career. And I think, in my opinion, the best way to do that is just to experience a lot of reps in practice and getting into the game throughout the season. So at the end of the day, let me know in the comment section down below, what are your thoughts of the Thomas Booker pickup? Do you like it? Do you think he's truly going to help this interior defensive line with the loss of Christian Wilkins? But at the same time, we just don't know what's going on with LEKI FOTU walking in that walking boot earlier today. And so let me know in the comment section down below. Now, let me give you my thoughts on Jacorian Bennett and us moving on from him. Obviously, Jacorian Bennett kind of came into his own last season, right? He was solidified himself as our #1 corner, but he ended last season with an injury, and there was a lot of question marks. Just how is he going to get back into form? What type of form are we going to see in the 2025 season? But with Pete Carroll coming on board, and everybody talks about the prototypical cornerback that Pete Carroll likes to see, there was a lot of question marks as to whether or not Jacorian Bennett was going to fit that. Now, look, as much as we all know Pete Carroll does like the long, lengthy corners, he's not afraid of drafting or bringing in corners that don't fit that mold. All right, Devin Witherspoon, he's been able to bring in guys and work with guys that don't fit that exact mold. So you just never knew whether Jacorian Bennett was really going to fit this scheme. But at the end of the day, we all knew that if Jacorian Bennett got back to his early 2024 playing level, we would have a pretty good corner on our hands. And at the end of the day, there's still a lot of question marks in this cornerback room. And now that we're a couple weeks into training camp, there's a lot of reports coming out that Eric Stokes is looking pretty good. You got our third round rookie, Darian Porter. He's starting to kind of get into his own. But again, he's still a rookie. It remains to be seen just how well Darian Porter is going to be able to do throughout the entire season. And one of the hardest positions to transition from the college level to the NFL is that cornerback position, mainly because of the hash marks where they're placed, how quickly the ball can now get to the receiver. Sometimes that transition can be difficult. And so it remains to be seen just how well Darian Porter can do for the remainder of the season if he is that starter. And then behind him, you got DC Richardson. And here's the thing. A lot of people are saying he's looking a little bit better. That's great, but we all know what DC Richardson was year one. Can he make that leap to be a good corner in the National Football League? Remains to be seen. So we still have a lot of question marks. And you look behind those three guys, Eric Stokes, Darian Porter, DC Richardson, behind that, a lot of undrafted free agents, a lot of guys that we really don't know what we have in them. But here's the thing. We know what we have or could have had in Jacorian Bennett based on what we saw early 2024, and he's still on his rookie contract. He's only due to make just a sliver over $1 million this year. And to have a guy like that, if he can get to his 2024 playing level, you potentially could have a really good safety blanket if one of these guys don't work out. And we hear the term all the time, iron sharpens iron. You always hear John Spytek and Pete Carroll always talk about competition. And at the end of the day, that's what Jacorian Bennett could have provided to this cornerback room. And even if he didn't compete as one of the outside corners, there's a lot of question marks on who our slot corner is going to be. And I posted a video on this just about a month ago, basically saying that if Jacorian Bennett did not solidify himself as one of the outside corners, he has all the skill set in the world to potentially compete as a slot corner in this defense, because Darnay Holmes still remains to be seen what we have out of him. I know that we potentially moved Greedy Vance to the slot corner behind Darnay Holmes, but again, another undrafted free agent that we really don't know exactly what we have out of him. And so at the day, we're relying on a lot of young talent to potentially come in and make their mark in this defense and to move on from a Jacorian Bennett that we know what his upside potentially is. And it's not like he's an expensive veteran that's going to take up a ton of cap space just sitting on the sidelines. This is a guy that can compete day in and day out. And at the top level of his play, he's going to be able to be on the heels of some of these cornerbacks, even the slot corners in this room, and just provide that extra push and that extra motivation for the potential starters to continue to sharpen their craft. And so I'm not a big fan of moving off from Jacorian Bennett. I think we should have given him one more year to just kind of show what he can do. And at the end of the day, provide true competition in this cornerback room, not only on the outside corner, but also as the slot corner as well. Now, I'm going to end this video with two things. Number one, it's always very risky to go and trade with a guy like Howie Roseman, right? Howie Roseman is one of, if not the best GM in the National Football League. You've seen what he's done with that roster in the short years that he's been over there, and the way that he sees and evaluates talent. And if he's willing to move off from somebody, there may be a reason why you moved off from somebody. Now, that is in that interior defensive line, and that is a very stacked defensive line group over with the Philadelphia Eagles. And so, look, again, Thomas Booker, he's a project. Maybe we can get something out of him. But at the end of the day, is there a reason why they're moving off of him? And also, is there a reason why they wanted Jacorian Bennett? The Eagles have Quinion Mitchell over there that got Cooper DeJean, plays more in the nickel, but there's some question marks on who that second corner, outside corner is truly going to be. And the worst thing that can happen is Jacorian Bennett goes over there and is the starting piece of that Eagles defense that is already a damn good defense, and he is over there and he produces. And one or two of our corners that are currently in our cornerback room struggle this entire season, and we just traded for a piece on this defensive line that maybe at best is a rotational piece. And I know I'm saying worst case scenario, but man, when you deal with someone like Howie Roseman, they make moves for a reason. Let's cross our fingers and hope we did get the best out of this trade. And lastly, what I will say is this is probably one of the first times that we can sit back and hope that we can trust the process with Pete Carroll. Obviously, Pete Carroll knows what he's doing with the defensive backs. He's done very well in his history with developing defensive backs and defenses. And so we can take a step back and hope that he is making the right move and we can trust the process a little bit. And that's what I'll do with some skepticism because, look, at the end of the day, us Raider fans can be skeptical from the top to the bottom due to all the moves that we have made in the past. And so I'm going to be skeptical until our Raiders can prove to all of us fans that they can start making good moves consistently that helps this team progress forward and have continued and sustained success as the years go on. So again, I will give Pete Carroll a little bit the benefit of the doubt and hope that this trade does come out better on our end. And so again, at the end of the day, let me know, what do you think of this trade? What do you think about moving on from Jakorian Bennett? Are you a fan of it or not? Let me know in the comment section down below. So I definitely appreciate you. Again, hit that notification because I am probably going to go live here in just a few minutes with my guys in the Raider War Room. So make sure you hit that notification. But at the same time, hit that sub button, hit that like button. My next giveaway is at 5,500 subscribers. If you want to be included, hit that sub button. So I appreciate you sticking with me. As a reminder, it is game week. And so I always do a game breakdown prior to our matchup. And this week, we're in Seattle, week 1 of the preseason. I'll hit you guys with a game breakdown on Wednesday. So watch out for that. But I appreciate you sticking with me. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you on the next one. I'm out of here.